He thought reporting us would teach us a lesson. Turns out he was the one breaking the law. Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today's episode is all about that next level revenge. The kind that doesn't just settle the score, it obliterates it. We've got 4 stories where people hit their breaking point and fire back with everything they've got. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Melissa. Neighbor tried to get my mom fined over our shed, so I got his $40,000 pool filled in. I live with my mom. She's quiet, keeps to herself, never bothers anyone. A few months ago, our new neighbor decided to report her to the city for having an illegal shed in the backyard. It was total BS. The shed's been there for years and has full permits. An inspector came out, checked everything, and left without saying a word. But the neighbor, smug, proud, thought he'd scared us. So I did a little digging. Turns out his brand new pool was way too close to the property line and illegally built over a utility easement. I reported him, attached photos, quoted city codes. 2 weeks later, the city ordered him to either move it, which is impossible, or fill it in. He lost the whole thing, $40,000 down the drain, literally. Now he gets to look at our completely legal shed every day while standing over a pile of dirt where his pool used to be. Mom sleeps great now. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called VHA23. It says, you should get a small kiddie pool and put it in your backyard. Fill it and sit in it while staring at his house and drinking a margarita. I feel like OP could have taken this one a little bit further once it was all said and done. They could have put up a sign on their shed, because it needs a name. It could be called Victory or FAFO. You can only push someone so far, and this family friend pushed way past the breaking point. This story comes to us from Just Serverisms. I destroyed my family friend's business and credibility. The background. A few years after I started university, a friend of my mother's, who we will call Cook, started what can be generously called a restaurant in a small town a couple hours outside of the city we lived in. It was really a glorified hot dog stand in a golf course. My mother had invested money into this business, so she had a personal stake in ensuring its success. That meant that she would often enlist us, aka my brother and I, to waiter when she could not do it herself. And my brother hated this guy, though I don't blame him. Cook had no idea how to run a business, and he was completely uninterested in learning. He was also completely computer illiterate and had me set up the Google account for his business. And in order to get us to work in his business, he would pick one of us up from our home, drive us 2 hours or so out of town, and we were basically stuck there until we were driven back due to the fact that neither of us had a driver's license. And since my brother had problems with this guy, legit concerns that were brushed off as him having a bad attitude, I was the one who more often than not had to spend 2 to 10 days at a time there, stuck in a barely livable house until I was back home. My mother was no better. She would often tell us that we would be working 2 days in the middle of a week, making job hunting a very difficult thing for my brother and I. Furthermore, she treated us not as employees, but as her children. Thus, any mistake was clearly our fault, and not because neither of them could A. train a staff, B. use a computer at all, C. manage a business at all, D. utilize my brother and I in the most effective way, considering my brother had already graduated university, and I was working towards a double major in business. Furthermore, they were completely unprofessional. They would host shouting matches in Chinese where customers could hear, and the kitchen was filthy, despite Cook's insistence that the kitchen was the cleanest place in a restaurant. Yeah, right. An ice rink was less slippery than the ground in there, and he would routinely touch cooked food after handling raw meat. I distinctly remember sweeping up what I thought was a green bell pepper, only to realize it was a moldy onion ring. Even the stove area was dripping in grease. Literally, a big drop landed on my arm one time. They could not train staff at all. They had hired 5 people in the first year, and none of them came back the next. Cook, in particular, was especially two-faced in how he handled customers. He would smile at them and greet them, remembering details from previous conversations, and then turn to me and say in Chinese about how they're all stupid, stingy retirees with too much money and the free time on their hands. All of this left a great feeling of resentment for both me and my brother. Not only was it effectively trapping us to work for this completely incompetent individual, we would get basically nothing out of it. This was particularly frustrating for me because, as a business student at the time, I could see all the ways this place could improve. I even offered to write up some policies, do some inventory management, and take a look at the administrative side just to help out and get some experience for myself. They kept insisting that they didn't need it. Sure, we were paid bare minimum, and the guy did know how to cook, but we have to bear the brunt of their frustration while hiding the fact that we were sick of helping out, until we couldn't anymore. The incident. Last year, I graduated university. It was not a happy time as it should have been, because my grandpa passed away the week before. I couldn't even celebrate the night before I walked on stage because A, I had to give part of the eulogy the previous day, B, I had to mediate an incident between my brother, my mother, and Cook because my mother couldn't. No pre-graduation shots for me because I was stuck on the phone for 3 hours listening to how insensitive Cook was over the fact that my grandpa just passed away. But I figured that once I walked the stage and had my diploma, I could spend that next week job hunting. No dice. Immediately after I graduated, on the Monday afterwards, my mother voluntold me that I had to work 10 days in the hell-restaurant. I lasted 6 before it happened. By all accounts, it wasn't that busy of a day to start off with. There was a breakfast brunch for Father's Day that barely anyone attended, and most people that did show up wanted to order off the menu. But both Cook and my mother were incredibly stressed out, and both of them were taking it out on me. My mother spent the day micromanaging me and finding flaws in every little thing I did, like cleaning an empty table over cleaning plates from a table out on the deck, to not immediately refilling coffee or water when a glass or mug was half full, to not table touching every 5 minutes. Cook just shouted a lot and gave contradictory orders every 2 minutes. But it was the combination of my mother and Cook screaming at me for a mistake I didn't even make, something about a sauce that a customer requested, but they got mad about, refusing to listen to me, literally shutting me down when I opened my mouth, and Cook mocking me for breaking down in tears. I remember him saying, "You're 25, you should know better than to cry over a stupid mistake," made me realize that not only could I not handle it anymore, but I wanted to burn the place to the ground. I booked a flight out of the province that day and left a week later. I didn't even tell my mother when or why I left. The revenge. Remember how I said that not only were they completely unprofessional, but also completely computer illiterate? See, despite the fact that I was no longer in the province, I still had all the login information for the business. Furthermore, because I knew all the laws that he blatantly refused to learn, I knew all the violations that he had committed in the business. For the first part of my revenge, I signed out his computer from the Google account. I don't think it was really necessary, since he never used that computer in the first place for anything other than adult material, but I want to make sure that he and my mother wouldn't be able to stop me. Before I left the province, I claimed the business in review sites using the email and business phone number. Then, I blasted every single review, positive or negative, with all the crap he used to say about customers. Any negative review was immediately mocked. Any positive review was left with a note of, "Thank you, you cheap bastard." Any questions were met with hostility, and it basically boiled down to, "I'm right, you're wrong." I also made mentions about how he didn't wash his hands in the kitchen, and the stuff that they're yelling in Chinese are insults about uppity customers. Given that it was a tourist-based town, I'm fairly certain that deep dip of sales that my brother mentioned later on was because of all those. And no one suspected a thing, because my mother and Cook didn't know how to work the internet, and my brother didn't care enough to look up the business. Next, I meticulously documented all the complaints that I had between my brother and myself, as well as the ones from the few people Cook had hired but never kept because he could not train them. I reported the 2 times that I slipped in his kitchen, incidents where he refused to wash his hands in between handling salad and raw meat because it took too long, and I handed those off to the Health Services Department. I also anonymously informed the tax revenue agency that he was severely underreporting income, as employees were instructed only to write down the credit and debit receipts to report in sales. The third part of my revenge wasn't really my part, to be honest. Rather, it was because of his own incompetence. As I said before, he was completely computer illiterate. I didn't even have to lock out the person he hired to do accounting because he didn't bother reporting his expenses, except hand them a garbage bag full of receipts. To be honest, I felt kinda sorry for them, but because their hands were tied, they couldn't dispute any of the claims that I made. What I did do, however, was text them all the things that my mother and Cook said about them so that they wouldn't bother trying to defend his butt. They quit a month before the crap hit the fan, meaning that Cook was left holding the bag. So naturally, given that the business wasn't making near as much money to make rent, let alone pay off all of the fines that he was slapped down with, the government repossessed everything. From everything in the dinky little house that he was renting for business purposes, to every single fork and knife he bought. Because of all the health code violations, he couldn't find a job as a cook again, which was his only job for about 30 years. And because the tax revenue agency knew how bad he was with managing businesses, they naturally denied him when he requested a permit to open up a growing operation. As far as I know, he's no longer in contact with my family, but his brother-in-law, who is my mom's hairstylist, mentioned that he had to move somewhere else to get away from all the bad reputation. My mother mostly got off scot-free because all of the business permits and licenses were under his name, but she lost quite a lot of money, and last I heard, my family had to move into a smaller house. And no one knew that I was the one who was doing it. My brother suspected, as he relayed details of what had happened to me, but I never confirmed it. Not that he would tell my parents, because honestly, F that helistront. As for me, I'd like to say that everything's sunshine and roses, but my decision to impulsively move provinces had its ups and downs. I did manage to find a place to live and a place to work, so at least I'm alive. It's hard, but I'd rather be doing this than going back. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Fogodicus. It says, "What a hell parent and what a dickwad. Good for you, man. I know it may seem like life is really hard for you right now, but later on, you'll realize just how worth it was for you to move out and completely start from scratch." Another user called Blackberry Bunny said, "I read every word you wrote and I loved it. Sorry you had such a bad experience, and good for you for giving Cook what he was deserving of. I really enjoyed your words, voluntel, and hellsterant a lot. I will be using those. I wish you much happiness and good fortune in your new home. Moving is never easy, but if you close one door, then to continue forward, you must open another door. Keep going, you will find happiness." I love the part in this story where OP says that they didn't know how to work the internet. I just love that statement. My parents are in their mid-70s and technology isn't really the best thing for them, although they have embraced it a little bit. But my mother loves to go around and tell her friends that her son makes videos on the YouTubes. So what did I do? I went out and got the license plate that says YouTubes, and I love it. This next story starts with a blocked sidewalk and ends with a child in foster care and someone facing decades behind bars. This story comes to us from Chaotic Lokeen. You want to hit a disabled person? Have fun with 30 plus years in jail. This happened in January, but the district attorney called me 2 days ago with the update. I'm a wheelchair user because of a fainting disorder, severe POTS for those wondering. I came home from work to see a car parked right under a no parking fire lane and on the sidewalk. It blocked the way into my apartment, and I had to leave the wheelchair in my car. I started taking photos of the car because this had been an issue with the owner for months. My landlord had told me to get photos of it and email them to him every time she did it after I mentioned it in passing. While taking a photo, the owner came out of her apartment to scream at me. I stayed calm and tried to walk into my apartment. She got in my face to continue screaming, and by reflex, I shoved her back. Then she grabbed me and began to hit me. After a minute, my neighbors and roommate, who were out having a smoke, came running and got her off me. Police were called, paramedics showed up because my neck was bleeding, and I ended up going to the ER because I had a syncope episode while the paramedics were there. I decided to press charges thinking I'd just get an aggravated assault or something. I made sure that they got her while she was home because I knew she had a pew-pew on the wall despite being a convicted felon. When the police went to arrest her, they found that the car was stolen without insurance, she didn't have a license, there were used paraphernalia all over the apartment with her 8-year-old child, and the pew-pew, which was also marked stolen. Child is now in foster care, and she is in jail without bond. The DA said that her child recorded it, she apparently told her to, and it was already ruled an assault because of the overwhelming proof. Plus, the 7 counts of assault she's gotten in the past 5 years already. Had I gotten her nailed with it outside of her home, she would have only gotten probation since she was a parent. But now, she lost her kid, her home, her car, and is going to be in jail for about 30 years or more, depending what the state charges her with for the substances. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Deliberate Dendrite. It says, I think justice would be a better word than revenge to describe this, given all the other things that apparently preceded this. Another commenter down below called Mr. Lauzu said, you did society a favor by taking the hit. You walk away with some scratches and bruises and maybe a bit rattled, but you took a dangerous person off the streets, which may even have saved that child's life. Certainly someone else was saved due to you taking this hit. Seems like this is one case where karma was an even bigger B than your neighbor. OP responded and said, I knew being hit was a risk, but I also knew that I'm not in any wrong. I have a condition where I don't feel pain very strongly compared to other people, so I was okay with being hit to take her down. One more comment on this one from a user called AlexDavid1605. It says, don't do so many crimes all at once if all it takes is one crime to unravel everything else. The objective for committing a crime is to get away with it. My goodness. If I had a stolen car, I'd make sure to have a garage and store it inside, not even driveway parking. If I'm not supposed to have a pew-pew, it is definitely going in a basement locker. Either you have a kid or you have substances, never both at the same time. This woman was an idiot who deserved to get caught and receive the punishment that she got. Can we just take a look at one statement in this one very quickly, that this woman, who was doing all of this illegal stuff, had her child record the situation with OP. So they recorded her getting right up into OP's face and everything going down. I'd love to know what the thought process was on that one. Hey, record this. It'll never come back on me. Ha. This story proves that lying to win may cost you everything, including your future. This one comes to us from OKRope9888. Make fun of my mental health? Good luck getting into college. I was 18 and in my junior year of high school when things got really dark. I won't go into all the details, but I ended up spending time in a mental health facility after a severe emotional crisis. I had just lost one of the only family members who truly accepted me for who I was, and the grief hit hard. Theater was the only extracurricular I had. The director felt like the mom I never really had, at least until show season, when she'd flip and tell everyone how worthless we were. On top of all that, being openly gay in a place like Oklahoma, let's just say school wasn't exactly a safe or welcoming space. I came back from the hospital medicated and ready to finish high school. Some background, I had spent my whole life school career trying to become the president of drama club. I was the only one to become inducted as a thespian as a freshman, and was practically ready to be the next president. The votes came in, and I lost. I would have been okay losing to Ben, fake name, until I found out that they had been telling everyone that I was unstable, and told people I went to the mental hospital for substance abuse. I have never abused substances, or done any substances for that matter. What's worse, when I confronted my theater teacher about it, she told me everyone has a right to free speech, and then proceeded to tell me that maybe I shouldn't have even reached out for help since this would have prevented my loss of the presidential race. Not to mention, I had police raid my car, my locker, and even my house. My parents thought I was on substance or something because police kept coming to my house. At the first police visit, they quite literally busted down our front door. I even got beat up in the parking lot of my work because a known substance provider didn't believe that I didn't have anything on me. I almost got fired from my one source of income because of this ordeal. All because he made up this lie, and everyone believed it and went talking. I was fuming and found out the top 10 colleges for Ben, and then emailed them all the screenshots of what he had said about me. His plan was to go to mostly liberal arts colleges, and had even received thousands in scholarship money. All of them rescinded their acceptance when they received the proof. Correspondence was very slow between me and the colleges. It took them forever to confirm that those screenshots weren't doctored in any way. But by the time it had been confirmed, most of the application deadlines had passed. He wasn't able to get into college. I feel slightly bad as I found out his mom was a special ed teacher, and hearing this actually told Ben that when he turns 18, he will need to find a place to live on his own. He has nowhere to live and no future plans. Don't make fun of people's mental health or make up lies for the purpose of winning. I haven't talked to anyone in the theater group since. All of them consider me a substance user and I became a pariah. I feel a little remorse, but not enough. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Ghetto Okie. It says, I live in Oklahoma and confirm the rumor mills here are disgusting. I can also confirm that the mental health system sucks butt. I'm glad you were able to get help. As for Ben, he got what he had coming to him. I tell my grandson, don't stir the crap pot if you're not willing to lick the spoon. Period. People who have never lived in a rural state, a Bible Belt state, or a small town won't understand how much petty BS happens in schools, among other places, that seriously damages other people's lives because someone said something. It's in these places that those rumors, even if they're found out for the lie they are, will impact people forever in said town. OP, I accept you with a huge mom hug if you want one. I hope that you get into whichever college you choose and that you bloom in life. OP, if somebody is trying to destroy you just because of who you are, then they deserve to be destroyed themselves. Nobody is going to fault you for putting those people down and getting them what they deserve. I wish you all the best going forward, OP. You're gonna do just fine. Well, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow on your favorite podcasting platform or subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss the next one. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.